Getting out on a high-performance ATV is pure excitement, and one of the most important steps in keeping it that way is checking the engine oil prior to every ride and changing it on a regular basis. Now, unlike cars, when to change your ATV's oil is more determined by hours of usage rather than distance traveled. This particular model requires changing the oil and filter after every 50 hours of use. First, ensure that it's on a solid level surface, remove the dipstick, and then clean the oil drain plug area. After allowing enough time for the oil to completely drain out, locate and unscrew the oil filter cover, remove the oil filter, and replace it with a new one. Be sure to check the oil filter cover O-ring. If it looks worn, replace it with a new one. Then screw the cover back on and wipe off any spillage. The underside of your ATV really gets a lot of wear and tear, so you really need to change the oil drain plug gasket every time you change the oil. Now go ahead and fill your four-wheeler with the proper oil. With the new oil in, start the engine and let it run for a few minutes. Then shut the engine off and wait a few minutes so the oil can move down to the crankcase. Check the level on the dipstick and add more if necessary until it reads full. With all the electronics running today's four-wheelers, the next step in making sure your ATV is ready to go is to have the battery prepared. And since the ATV's battery is much smaller than a normal car battery, the outside temperature affects it even more. So the best thing you can do for it is clean the terminals and cables with a wire brush and battery cleaner spray. Apply dielectric grease and always check that the cables are tight. Also, try to hook up a charger whenever you can so your battery is always full and ready to go. Advance Auto Parts carries a full line of chargers and batteries that are perfect for your ATV. Next, go through your owner's manual and check all the fuses and electrical connections on your ATV. Cleaning and applying dielectric grease will help ensure they work in even the coldest weather. Then clean and grease all the chassis lube points and control cables. Using a silicone-based spray on the cables will keep them from freezing up and help them last longer. And depending on your ATV's model, you may be able to check the drive belt condition. If it looks worn, replace it. Advance sells a number of ATV drive belts. Be sure to check that all the lights on your ATV work. If you find one that doesn't, they're easy to replace, and Advance Auto Parts can get them for you. These tires see some really rough terrain where picking up cuts, gashes, and thorns is normal, so really give them a thorough inspection. Come across a tire that's really worn, then you'll need to replace it because front and rear tires on ATVs are different from each other, so rotating them is not an option. Now you want to check each tire's pressure while it's cold with a gauge that measures low pressure readings like this one. Your normal vehicle tire pressure gauge measures pressures that average in the 30s to 40s, so it probably won't work because ATV tires only use about 6 pounds of pressure depending on their specific use. So if one tire is lower than the other by just 2 or 3 pounds, that's enough to cause a big pull to one side you don't want while you're riding. So it's a great idea to have that pump and gauge along with a tire repair kit with you. Now climbing over logs and rocks with your ATV is fun, so inspect the rim for any dents or cracks you may have picked up riding. And no matter what you get out of your ATV, whether it's using it as your workhorse on the property or just running through the mud and muck, you really need to service the lug nuts and studs so they don't prematurely seize up. To keep them in good shape, take the nuts off and clean them with some brake parts cleaner. Then apply some anti-seize lubrication to the threads and reattach. And when you're retightening the nuts, do it in a crisscross sequence. So with your tires in top shape and ready to roll, you're one step closer to making sure your ATV is always ready to hit the trail.